Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. It's Kirsten here, and today I will be sharing another recipe with y'all. Today I will be making pastelitos, or basically an empanada, which is a fried pastry dough with a meat filling. The first time I had this was when I went to go visit my husband's family over in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and that was the first time I had it. We went over to his aunt's house and she made it for us, and I fell in love with it, so she shared the recipe with me, and I've been making it ever since. So it's really good and I love it, so I'm going to share with y'all. So let's get into the video. Okay, I'm going to start off with 4 potatoes that I have peeled and rinsed, and I also put a medium pot on the stove with some water to boil with a little bit of salt in it, and I'm just going to dice these potatoes for the filling. And I'm just dicing them into medium pieces because in the filling you want a nice piece of potato for you to bite into, and you don't want them to be too tiny. And of course it's upon your own preference, but this is about the size that I cut them up. Okay, so I got them all diced up, and I'm just going to throw them into the boiling water that I had already prepped. And I'm just going to let them boil down until they're nice and soft, but not to where they're mushy, just fork tender. Okay, so now I have a medium-sized onion, and I'm just going to dice that up. And I'm only going to use about a cup of onions that I diced up for this recipe because I didn't end up using all of it. Alright, I got my onions all diced up, and now I'm just going to start sauteing them. I put a little bit of oil in my pan, and I will throw in my onions and let them saute down and let them get nice and translucent, and then I will add in my ground beef. You can make these pastelitos with any other filling that you would like. You can make it with chicken, you can make it with shrimp, you can make it even a meatless option with veggies, rice and beans, or anything like that. Just season it up and make it your own. Alright, so my onions are nice and sauteed, and I'm just going to throw in my ground beef. I have a pound of ground beef, and I'm just going to chop it up. And I want my ground beef kind of chopped up pretty finely, I don't want big pieces in it because this is a filling, and I don't want huge pieces of ground beef in it. And also I want my meat to be seasoned evenly. Alrighty, time to season it up, and I'm going in with some adobo seasoning, some Creole seasoning, giving it a nice stir to incorporate those seasonings I just added. And then also I am going to be using some Sazon powder packets. If you don't know what Sazon is, it is basically a Spanish seasoning that has cilantro, cumin, and oregano in it. That's basically ground up, and it's really good. I actually use this quite often in various dishes that I cook, and it adds a really good flavor to a lot of Spanish dishes. And I even made fried rice with this seasoning. I love it. So yeah, I'm adding that in, and it's gonna get all nice and flavorful, and I'm just gonna cook it down. I'm still chopping my meat up because, like I said before, I want it pretty fine. So chop, 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 chop. Okay, so my meat is basically done, and I don't have much grease at the bottom or liquid, so I don't have to drain it. And if you do have quite a bit of grease on your meat, I will definitely drain it off, because we don't want a greasy feeling, and we don't want a whole bunch of grease in general, because yeah, that's not good. So we're gonna now add my potatoes that I boiled, and I'm just gonna throw them in there. And I kind of like did them a little bit at a time, kind of to see if I needed to add more, and I did. I ended up using all of my potatoes in it. It was a perfect amount. And actually, this filling makes a lot. So if you want to use half a pound of the beef, if there's not many people you're going to be making them for, I would definitely cut it in half and do it that way. But this made a lot. Basically, I ended up making empanadas, pastelitos for 2 days, which I was not complaining about. So yeah, I kind of seasoned them again with a little bit more adobo and Creole seasoning, and gave that a good stir, and let basically everything incorporate together. And now I have this seasoned tomato sauce, and I'm just going to add it to it. And this is basically, like it says, a tomato sauce, but I found it in the Spanish Mexican aisle of the grocery store. And basically it says it's seasoned with onions, garlic, and cilantro, and that adds another flavor element to this. So I'm going to let it cook down, and I'm just going to continue to stir it. And I was trying not to break up my potatoes, but they were still pretty firm to where they didn't break down even when I was done. So just continue to stir and let it cook down, and let those flavors incorporate, because this is so delicious. I could eat the filling by itself. I could just sit there with a bowl of this filling and just eat it. But it is really good. And taste as you go along according to your personal preferences, and any other seasonings that you would think that would go in here as well. You can put those in here too. So that's basically what I did, because I just took the recipe that she gave me, and I kind of like made certain things my own. So like the Sazon, I kind of like added that on my own. So just make it your own. Everybody, that's why I love cooking, because I can basically make anything my own, add a little bit of this, a little bit of that. That's why I love cooking. Alright, now back to what I had was doing. So I added a can of the green chilies, and this is easy to find. I found this one on the Spanish aisle, Mexican aisle as well. They have various brands in the stores to choose from. Okay, so we're almost done with this filling, and I just gave it a little taste to see if I needed to adjust my seasonings, and I decided that I needed to. So I went in with some salt, some Creole, and some more adobo. And off camera, I chopped up some velveeta cheese into cubes. I used about a cup, and I'm going to add that. The velveeta cheese just adds another layer of sharpness to it, and it's really, really good. In goes my velveeta cheese, and just stir that in and let that melt down. I did turn off my heat because everything is basically hot, and I kind of let that cheese to melt down, and also for this to cool down just a little bit before I stuff my pastelito empanada shells. So yeah, here we go. And it was so good. Like I said before, I could just eat this by itself. It's so delicious. This probably would be good over rice, even if you want to make that a meal in itself. I definitely would suggest that. Okay, let's stuff these bad boys. And I bought these empanada pastelito shells from a grocery store. You can also get them from like a Spanish Mexican store in your area. They're often in the frozen food section, and if you can't find them, you can also make them, but of course this is the easier way out, and they're just as good. So there are plenty of recipes for the shells if you decide to make them and you can't find them in your area. So they're separated by each disc with a little piece of paper, which also helps with them sticking together. So let's get started on this. So I'm just gonna put a little bit of flour on my hands, and I'm dusting the outside of the shell so that it won't stick to the board. And I don't want too much flour because we all know that flour burns when you put it in grease. So just slightly dust it with the flour so it won't stick. And I'm putting about a tablespoon of filling into each. Try not to overfill. Just fold it over. Press down the sides. I'm going to dip my fork in a little bit of flour and basically seal the edges to keep that filling in and so they won't bust open once they start to fry. So they're nice and filled, and we can start to fry them. So in the pot, I just poured in some canola oil, and I'm just gonna fill it up to the amount to where the empanadas will be fully submerged in the grease so they can fry, deep fry in there. And I'm just gonna let the oil come up to temperature so we can start frying them. And I cook these for about 3 to 5 minutes on each side, just until they're golden brown and crispy. I like to pair my pastelitos or empanadas with the salad or rice and beans. There are great combinations to go with this. You can use black beans, refried beans, pinto beans. Those are great options to prepare with these, or you can even just eat these as a little snack or appetizer. Or even if these would be great for parties, or if you have to take a dish over somewhere, this would be perfect for times like that. You can also probably fry these up and even put them in the freezer and freeze them and just reheat them. That would be a great option too if you ever want a quick snack or something like that. Alright, so here they are, fresh out of the grease, and they're piping hot. They're nice and golden brown, nice and crispy, and they're ready to eat. And these were so delicious. I just paired them with the salad and we enjoyed them. These are so good. Give them a try and let me know how you like them. Leave me a comment down below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.